Okay. Hi, everyone. We're back reading James and the Giant Peach. We're on chapter 13. If you haven't seen the other chapters, make sure you go read those first. And I've heard some of you have got the book and you're following along at home, which is brilliant. Okay, so chapter 13. A few minutes later, Miss Spider had made the first bed. It was hanging from the ceiling, suspended by the ropes of threads at either end, so it actually looked like a hammock than a bed. But it was a magnificent affair, and the stuff it was made of shimmered like silk in the pale light. I do hope you find it comfortable, Miss Spider said to the old green grasshopper. I made it as soft and silky as I possibly could. I, I spun it with gossamer. I'm not sure what gossamer is. We might have to Google that, what that means. That's a much better quality thread than the one I used for my own web. Oh, gossamer must be a type of thread. So when you sew things, you use this little string, don't you? That's called a thread. Thank you so much, my dear lady, the old green grasshopper said, climbing into the hammock. Ah, this is just what I needed. Good night, everybody. Good night. Then Miss Spider spun the next hammock, and Ladybird got in. And after that, she spun a long one for Centipede and an even longer one for Earthworm. How do you like your bed? She said to James when it came to his turn. Hard or soft? I like it soft, thank you very much, James answered. For goodness sake, stop staring round the room and get on with my boots, the Centipede said. You and I are never going to get any sleep at this rate, and kindly line them up neatly in pairs and take them off. Don't just throw them over your shoulder. Wow. James worked away frantically on Centipede's boots. Each one had laces that had to be untied and loosened before it could all be pulled off. And to make matters worse, all the laces were tied up in the most terrible, complicated knots that had to be unpicked with fingernails. It was just awful. It took about 2 hours, and by the time James had pulled off the last of the boots and all of them lined up in a row on the floor, 21 pairs altogether, the Centipede was fast asleep. Wake up, Centipede, whispered James, giving him a little dig in the stomach. It's time for bed. Thank you, my dear child, the Centipede said, opening his eyes. Then he got off the sofa and ambled across the room and crawled into his hammock. James got into his own hammock, and oh, how soft and comfortable it was compared to the hard, bare boards that his aunts had always made him sleep upon at home. Lights out, said Centipede drowsily. Nothing happened. Turn out the light, he called, raising his voice. James glanced around the room, wondering which of the others he might be talking to, but they were all asleep. The old green grasshopper was snoring loudly through his nose. The ladybird was making whistling noises as she breathed, and the earthworm was coiled up like a spring at one end of his hammock, wheezing and blowing through his open mouth. As for Miss Spider, she had made a lovely web for herself in one corner of the room, and James could see her crouching right in the centre of it, mumbling in her soft dreams. I said turn out the light, shouted Centipede angrily. Are you talking to me? James asked. Of course I'm not talking to you, you arse, said the Centipede. The crazy glowworm has gone to sleep with her light on. For the first time since entering the room, James glanced at the ceiling, and that's when he saw an extraordinary sight. Something that looked like a gigantic fly without wings. It was at least 3 feet long and was standing upside down upon its 6 legs in the middle of the ceiling. And the tail end of the creature seemed to be literally on fire. A brilliant greenish light, as bright as the brightest electric bulb, was shining out of its tail and lighting up the whole room. Is that a glowworm? Asked James, staring at the light. It doesn't look like any sort of worm to me. Of course it's a glowworm, said the Centipede. At least that's what she calls herself. Although actually you're quite right. She isn't really a worm at all. Glowworms are never worms. They are simply fireflies without wings. Wake up, you lazy beast! The glowworm didn't stir, so the Centipede reached out of his hammock and picked up one of his boots from the floor. Put out that wretched light, he shouted, hurling a boot at the ceiling. The glowworm slowly opened one eye and stared at the Centipede. There's no need to be rude, she said coldly. All in good time. Come on, come on, come on, shouted the Centipede, or I'll put it out on for you. Oh, hello, James, said the glowworm, looking down and giving James a little wave and a smile. I didn't see you come in. Welcome, my dear boy, welcome, and good night. Then click, out went the light. James Henry Trotter lay there in the darkness with his eyes wide open, listening to the strange sleeping noises that the creatures were making all around him, and wondering what on earth was going to happen to him in the morning. Already he was beginning to like his new friends very much. They were not nearly as terrible as they looked. In fact, they weren't really terrible at all. They seemed extremely kind and helpful in spite of the shouting and arguing that went on between them. Good night, old green grasshopper, he whispered. Good night, ladybird. Good night, Miss Spider. But before he could go through them all, he had fallen fast asleep. Brilliant. So that was chapter 13. I hope you're all doing well. And I hope you're enjoying the holidays and making sure you're resting and not doing any schoolwork. But if you're reading, that's what you should be doing. Okay, it was nice reading a story to you all, and I hopefully see you all soon. Bye.